River Nile is the longest river in Africa and is historically considered the longest river in the world. It flows from Lake Victoria in Uganda through southern Sudan, Egypt, and finally into the Mediterranean Sea. Communities living around the river depend on it for their livelihood. Its water is blue. Blue Nile Analytica, under the leadership of Pius Odhiambo, has been established to empower institutions in Africa meet the demands for data science professionals in the job market. This will make Africa remain competitive as it joins the rest of the world in data revolution era. Pius Odhiambo is a senior data scientist consultant based in Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to introduce to you the team behind Blue Nile Analytica as they discuss basic principles of Python for data science via Zoom. From February 2023, Blue Nile Analytica will offer classes in data science at a subsidized fee. Classes will be conducted from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. East African local time every Saturdays for a period of 6 months with effect from 4th February 2023. To register, please send an email to the founder of Data Science Mentorship Program via email odhiambo@students.bowystate.edu or send WhatsApp SMS on +1 240 480 6558 or +254 769 536 458. Students from all countries in Africa are encouraged to apply.
Take it away, Mr. Bushwe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pius. Greeting to you all. My name is Levi. I'm a data scientist with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. I also work as a lecturer, part-time lecturer with the Cooperative University of Kenya. And finally, I'm a consultant with the Blue Nile Analytica, which the founder is Mr. Pius. Straight away, I would like to start this class. Now, in today's lesson, we will start from variables. And from these variables, we'll start from chapter 2, which is variable. You will learn, you will know what's a variable and different things that we are going to use. Now, when I will be teaching, I'll be using this PowerPoint slide. And at the same time, I'll be using my Jupyter notebook because we are not in a theory class. This is a practical class. You have to know both theory and practical part of it. Now, I've reached where I will start my lesson. The subtopic is values and variables. You have to know what is values and variables because it is my hope each and every one of you have passed through a mathematics class, even if it is not advanced mathematics units. But each of you knows what is a variable. For example, when you'll be learning machine learning, you will learn that there is what we call a dependent variable and an independent variable. What is this dependent variable? A dependent variable is normally the y-axis, and independent variable is in the x-axis. That is how we normally come with the equation of a straight line, y is equals to mx plus c. This is an idea which comes from variable. Then the other thing which we'll have to learn is what we call values. What are the values? For any programming, you have got things which you enter in forms of wording, in form of what can we say, symbols. Those that is what we call values in programming. Now we'll start straight away, and I'll be giving you theory, and at the same time we do practical of the same. We'll start with a value. You need to know what is a value, the meaning of the term value. Value, it is actual data or instruction stored in a computer. Now, those instructions which will be entering or which will be programming, that is what we call values. So those instructions which you will be entering in your Jupyter notebook, that is what we call values. Then the second thing, we have integer values. Integer values, these are values that are numeric. They are numeric in nature. The number, for example, 4 is an example of numeric. In mathematics, 4 is an integer, as you all know. And we can go further to give the description of the word integer. Integer are whole numbers, which means they have no fractional parts. And they can be positive, negative, or 0. So any whole number that has got no fractional part, and it can either be positive, negative, or 0, that is an integer. Example of an integer, we can give a number such as 4, negative 19, 0, or negative 1005. In contrast, you might get 4.5. You need to know 4.5, it has got a decimal. And in Python, any number that has got a decimal, we normally call it float numbers. Since it is not a whole number, so anything that has got a decimal, we call it float number. The other thing which you need to know is that Python supports a number of numeric and non-numeric values. In Python program, in particular, Python program can use integer value. For example, you can get Python statement print 4. This means you are now instructing Python to print the value 4. Notice there is something that you have to notice, that unlike listing, for example, listing 1.1 symbol.py and listing 1.2 arrow.py, no quotation marks appears. So what am I trying to drive? You need to know in Python, when you are giving a command such as print, you should not put a quotation mark. The value 4 is an example of an integer expression. So, for example, when you are instructing Python to print, this means you put a command print, then in bracket. When you will put those quotation marks, it will give a different command. So when you want your Python program just to print 4, you will command it by the word print, then 4. The next thing I would like you to know is that the number 4 by itself is not a complete Python statement. So when you write just the number 4, that is not a complete Python statement, because that is what I told you in our last lesson. This is what is called hard coding. But when now you have the command print, it becomes now dynamic coding, because now you are giving Python the command of what is going to execute. Now, before I go further, I've given you the theory part of it, and you need also to know the practical part of it. because it goes hand in hand. Okay, I'll just do that after 30 minutes. I want to do all of them at once. So let me finish with the practical part of it. Now, when I go to the other slide, you need to know what is an interactive shell. An interactive shell, it means activity consisting of reading the text entered by the user, attempting to evaluate the user input in the context of what the user has entered up to that point, printing its evaluation of the user's input. If the user, for example, enters 4, the shell interrupts it as 4. The user enters x is equals to 10. And that x is equals to 10, you need to know that is a dynamic coding. It is not hard coding. A statement has no overall value itself. The shell prints nothing because it has got no overall value itself. If the user then enters x, the cell prints the evaluation of x, which is 10. What does it mean? You have been given a dynamic code, x is equals to 10. Now, you have to call back this value of x. How are you going to call back this value of x? Is by again entering x. That is what is done in Python. And as I've told you earlier, you need to know the assignment value in Python is normally equal sign. For example, here you are saying that x is equals to 10. This is equal sign. That is what we call it assignment sign in Python. The other thing, Python uses plus symbol or addition symbol with integers to perform normal arithmetic addition. Normal arithmetic addition. So the interactive shell as a handy adding machine. Think add coding. Now, you all know this symbol in mathematics. That's addition symbol. It means now you are going to add 2 or more variables, or you are going to add 2 or more integers, float numbers, and what have you. So for example, as you can see in this case, 3 plus 4. Now, this is what we call now the add coding. You are taking straight 3 plus 4. And in this, you will get the answer is 7 when you do that in your Jupyter notebook. Then in the second case, you are being given 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 10 plus 3. This is add coding, which will give you the results to be 20. Now, I want you to take note on our third case. On our third case, it has started with the command print. Now, you are going to print the summation of 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 10 plus 3. Since you have started with a command print, it changes this Python statement from being a hard code to a dynamic code. Now, if I can add, the last line evaluated show that how we can use some symbol to add values within a print statement that could be part of Python program. Now, the other thing you need to know, you have seen in our first case, we have just done add coding where we have taken 3 plus 4, that is 7. But in the other case, you can decide now to do it with a dynamic coding. A dynamic coding is where now you instruct Python to print the summation of 3 plus 4. Now, in other cases, you might now include the quotation mark. You might decide to include the quotation mark after the print statement. What do you think it will happen when now you decide to include quotation mark? For example, in our first case, you have noticed that 19 has been written. After this 19 has been written, that is a hard code. What is the output after entering an input of 19 in your hard code? You will realize that it will give you the same 19. Then, in the second case, you have now introduced quotation mark. Now, you write 19, and this 19 is under the quotation marks. You will realize the output also, it will come under the quotation mark. Then, you can notice that the output of the interpreter is different. The expression at first, under 19 under quotation mark is an example of a string value. Because now in Python, you will learn different values, and one of them is string. The expression, this expression 19 under double quotation mark is an example of a string. And what is a string? A string is a sequence of characters. Strings most often contains non-numeric characters. So you need to know when we will reach advanced level of programming, and maybe you have entered a certain command, and that command is not being executed. And you ask me, Mr. Levi, how can I go about this one? And I just tell you, change this value to be a string. You need to know that most strings normally contains non-numeric values. The other thing is Python recognizes both single quotes and double quotes as valid ways of delimit a string value. So you need not to worry. When programming in Python, you might find other Jupyter notebooks, it has double quotes. Other Jupyter notebooks, it contains single quotation marks. In Python, it recognizes both. You can either decide to enter with double quotation, or you can decide to enter with a single quotation. If a single quotation marks the beginning of a string value, a string quote must delimit the end of the string. Similarly, the double quotes, if used instead, must appear in pairs. What does it mean? For example, if you have decided your string to start with a single quote, it must also end with a single quote. And if you have decided to start with a double quote, it must also end with a double quote. Failing to do so, you might wonder that you are entering a command, but you are getting a syntax error. So it is according to you. If you have decided now, I want to use a single quote, it must be uniform. It must also end with a single quote. If you have decided now, I want to use a double quote, it must also end with a double quote. Failing to do so, you will get a syntax error. A note: the interpreter output always uses single quotes, but it accepts either single or double quotes as valid input. That one I've widely explained it. For example, you have been given there an example of 19. The first 19, this one has got a double quote, and interpreter, the output, you have gotten your output to be 19 with a single quote. And when you decide to enter now your 19 in your input with a single quote, you will still get this 19 in your output as a single quote. Another thing, it is important to note that expression 4 and 4 in single quote are different. You have to know that, as one is an integer expression and the other is a string expression. Now, if I can give explanation on that, that first 4, as you can see, it is a whole number, which is positive. This means it is an integer. And the second 4, where now a quotation mark has been introduced, this means it is a string. It will be interpreted as a string. And how will you identify that a number is either an integer, a string, object, or what? We normally use a command type. Type in bracket, then you enter that value. For example, in this case, you have seen that type in bracket 4. That is the input, and then the output. It will give you now, when you want to get the type of this value, and our value is 4, the output it will give you is under class integer, which is denoted as int in Python programming. Then in our second case, we have to get now the type of this 4, which is under quotation marks. You will find it will give you the output as the class is string. In Python, str means string, and in R, str means structure. So don't confuse when you are learning Python and R, because sometimes you might get confused. That is why when Mr. Ruben was coming with an idea of that, that we can teach these two languages concurrently, we said no, because it brings confusion, because str in Python means string, and str in R programming language, it means structure. Now, the other point is Python associates the type name int with integer expression. That one I've explained. Then str with string expression. The built-in int function converts the string expression of an integer to an actual integer. And str function converts the integer expression to a string as shown below. Now, what are they explaining? When you will advance in Python programming, and sometimes you might encounter some machine learning problems, it will require you to have very deep knowledge of these values and variables. Why are they important? Because in data pre-processing, it requires you to identify these data types, if it is an int, that is the short form of integer, or if it is a str, the short form of a string. Because you might be programming a certain problem and it tells you it can't subtract a string value. You have to know a string value is not numeric. So for it to be subtracted, you have to change it to an integer value. Or sometimes you might be doing a problem and it tells you that this function is float. and it can't convert a float. So that type of error shortly tells you to change a float to an integer. The other thing, now you can see, at this first example, the value 4 has been entered as a hard code. And the output here is 4. Then the second case now. The second case is you want now this 4 to be converted to a string. How will you convert this 4 to a string? Now the input, you can see the input. I don't know why my laptop hangs. Yes, you can see the input. The input, it has started with str. What does that mean? That means it is a string. You are commanding now Python to change the value 4 to a string. So when you enter the command str in bracket 4, it will give you an output. It will give you an output of 4 in a quotation mark. What does it mean? That means that you are changing 4 to a string. Now, the second case is now you have entered a hard code. This hard code, you are entering a string of 5. You are entering a string of 5. Now, by entering this string of 5, it will give you the output in string form, and that is 5. Now, the second case is where now you are instructing this Python to change this string of 5 to an integer. You will start with int. Then in bracket, you enter that string value, which is 5 under single quotation. And the output it will give you is 5. Note, any integer has a string representation, but not all strings have an integer equivalent. So you have to know, any integer, it has a string representation, but not all strings have got integer equivalent. The other thing which you need to know is the expression. I think that one I've already explained. This expression, which you have entered str for, it means now you are going to evaluate or you are going to change 4 to a string value. And the second case, where now you are starting with the command int, it means you are going to change that 5, which is inside the bracket, and it is under single quotation mark. You are going to change it to, an integer value. For example, you have been given there a string. You have been given there a command, and this command, it means now you are going to change that integer of 1024 to a string. We'll start with the command str. This command str, it means now you are going to change 1024 to a string, and you will get the output of 1024 under the single quotes. Then the other thing is now you can see here where now you are instructing to change this string and this string is in form of a float number 3.4. You will get a value error. Why are you getting a value error? This gives you the correct example. Not all strings have an integer equivalent. So this means when you try to instruct Python to get an integer of 3.4, which is a string, it will give you a value error. This is an indication that not all strings having an integer, not all strings have got an integer equivalent. Then there is this operator, addition operator. You realize that when you use addition operator, it works differently for strings because it considers them as add and dynamic coding, as I told you earlier. Now, when you use plus, for example, you want to add two values, 2 plus 4. This number, when you enter them as an integer when you add 2 plus 4, it will give you 6. But when now you put double or single quote under 2, it changes it to a string. And you say 2 under quotation mark plus 4 under quotation mark. Python program will interpret it differently. Instead of getting 6 as you had expected, Python program, it will combine. It will assume you are combining 2 and 4, and it will give you 24 instead of giving you 6. This is the example. The first example, you can see where the input is 5 plus 10. When you enter 5 plus 10, you get 15. Why? Because 5 is an integer and 10 is an integer. But now, be keen in this case, in the second program. In the second program, in the second command, Python will interpret it totally different. When you you write 5 under single quotation, Python now interprets it as a string, then plus 10 under the quotation. Python is going to interpret it as a string. As per your expectation, you are expecting to get 15, but now Python will combine it. It will combine it to be 510 instead of 15. And when it will combine it to be 510, it will be the output also will be a string. The same when you try to add the alphabets, A, B, C and a string plus X, Y, Z and a string. The output you will get is A, B, C, X, Y, Z as a string. Now, the other thing you need to know is variable now and assignment. In Python or in any programming language, what is a variable? A variable, it is a way of locating the data, value, replacing reference, but not itself the set of data or instructions stored in a computer. A variable is just a name that stands for a value in a certain scope of the program. Now, you need to know a variable is just a name that stands for a value. Every time a variable is evaluated, its value needs to be looked up in the environment. Now, a variable goes hand in hand with assignment. You have been given X is equals to 10. An assignment statement associates with a value with a variable. The key to an assignment statement is a symbol equal sign, which is known as an assignment operator. As I started earlier, you need to know in Python, the assignment operator in Python is normally equal sign. Now, when you are given an example such as x is equals to 10, that means x has been assigned to be 10. And that equal sign is what we call an assignment operator. And in this case, when you are using an assignment operator, that is what we call dynamic coding. Let me handle the last theory part, and then we start now doing the practical part of it. Now, in that cell, you have been given x is equals to 10. There are two ways of calling back x. The first way, you can decide to use print command. You want now Python to print x. You can use print in bracket x. That is the first method. The second method, you have assigned 10 to x, and you want to call back this x. How are you going to call it back? Below x is equals to 10, you will just write another x. And that means you would have called back x, and you get the value of x. Print x. This statement prints the variable x, which is currently 10. That one I have explained. In Python, equal sign makes the variables on its left take the value of the expression on its right. Now, you have seen x is on your left-hand side. So when you call it back, it will take the value of the expression on your right-hand side. Now, for you really to get this thing, because 1 hour is about to be over, we started class at around 13 hours, and right now it's 17:53 hours, around 20 minutes. These 20 minutes, let us now go back to the lab so that you can see what we have been learning in theory, now in practical. I'm going to start now my Jupyter notebook so that you can see what we have been doing, in practical. You get it. If you can be able to see my Jupyter notebook, please type yes. Now, I have finished the theory part of it. Now we are going to the lab part of it. I normally call my lab lesson to be bush analytics. So I'll go straight from where we started so that we can get it clearly. Hope everyone can see my screen. Now, what we have learned how to identify a string. That is the first thing, how to identify an integer and how to call them back. Now, and also we have learned about the assignment operators. I'm getting a challenge by moving from my Jupyter notebook to the slide. When I try to do that, I'm getting some challenges, but after the lesson, I will consult, please. So I'm starting now to code. We have seen at first there is where we got 3 plus 4. 3 plus 4. Now, as I told you earlier, this is add coding. Now, when you get this 3 plus 4, you go here, where now you tell Python to run. That is my input. You want to get the output. The output you will get is 3 plus 4. That is 7. The other way, now for you to get this 7, you might use the print command. How are you going to use the print command? You will start by print in bracket. What do you want Python to print? You want Python to print 3 plus 4. You want it to print 3 plus 4. Then you run. You have seen that the output is just the same as the one we got in our first one. The difference is the first one, there was no command print. Then the other thing which you have learned from today's lesson is an assignment operator. And this assignment operator, I've told you in Python, is an equal sign. Now, I want you now to get it, how to assign and how to call them back. In my first example, I will call it back using the print command. So x is equals to 10. Then I want to call it back so that I can get the value of x. How am I going to call it back? This is the way I'll call it back. I'll say print. Then in bracket, I say x. When I run, you have seen very well, the output now is 10. That is the first way to call it back. The second way I can decide to call it back is this way. I decide now I want to call back the value of x. You just write x below that, that cell, and it calls it back. So the first way you have seen, I've used the print command. The second method now, I've just written x below 10. So there are two ways which you can call them back. Now, the other thing which I need you to know is how are you going now to know the type? For you to know the type, for example, you want to know if the value is an integer or a string. Come here, just write type. After writing type, you in bracket, you write a number like 10. Then you run. You see what it has executed. This means 10 is an integer. The second example, for example, let us now try a negative number. When you try a negative number, we say negative 10. When we put there negative 10 and we try to run, it still gives us this type is an integer. This satisfies our explanation that an integer is a whole number, both negative, positive, and 0. Let me try to enter. Now, for example, I want to get the type. I'm sorry, please. I want to get this type. And then here I put 3.4. Then I run. What comes to your screen is a float. And somebody might wonder, what is a float? We know the idea behind computing started in America. And all programs in computing, it is written in American English. So For us who are used with Breton English, when you are given a value such as 3.4, you know this is a decimal value. But in American English, they normally call it a float value. Now, a float, it means that number or that value which you are entering, it has some decimal point. Now, let us now go to the second part. We want now to see the difference when you put this 10, which is the 10 which is not under quotation marks, and the 10 which is under quotation mark. So we will start the same way. We say x is equals to. Now, in our case, you might decide to use the simple quotation mark or the double quotation mark. Let me start showing you with the single quotation mark. Then still, I will show you with the double quotation mark. You want to write now 10. Now, by putting those single quotation mark or double quotation mark, it means now it is a string. Now, I want to call back this 10. And the first way of calling it back is for me to use the print command. So I'll go there and say I want to use now the print command. That is it. Then I run. It will give you, it will give me this value of x is 10. But now this 10 is a string value. The second way, which I might decide to call it, I might call it this way. Put it here. And then I call it back. How am I going to call it back? I will call it back now. This time round, I avoid print command. I just write x under what I'd written up there, x is equals to 10. Then I run. After running, you see pretty well, it has written to me 10. But now this 10 is a string value. The other thing I need you to know is for you to know the type of this one. Now, know if it is type integer or a string. You'll just come and say you write their type that way. Then you copy paste that type. And now, no, before I go there, I told you that when you are putting a string, you can put either a single or double. So in our first example, I've put single. So I want to show you. What have I done, please? In this first example, it was x is equals to 10 that way. Then I said print x. Now in that one, I used a single. So I want to go to where now I can use a double. So x is equals to, for example, double now, 10. Then I want to call it using a print function. So this is how I'm calling it. You just write print, then we say x. After doing that, you run it. It will give you 10. In the second case, I want also to do this. And in that second case, now I want to use the double. I want to use the double. And this is how I will use now the double. You can see I'm putting my double. Then I call it using X. When I call it using X, this is what you will get. You will get 10 as your response. So what does it mean? It means when you are writing a string, you are free either to use a double quotation or a single quotation. Now, what if you will decide now you want to call this function x is equals to 10, and now you decide you start with a double quotation and you end it with a single quotation. What will you get? You will get a syntax error. Now in this example, you can see I've started with a double quotation and I'm ending with a single quotation. When I try to run, I'll get a syntax error. So it has to be uniform. If you start with a double quotation, you have to end with a double quotation. If you start with a single quotation, you have to end with a single quotation. The other thing which I wish you to know is now, this first case, let me use the add coding. You have 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus maybe 3, then plus 4. This is hard coding. Then you want to run that cell. When you run that cell, you get 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. That is 10. And now you want to change the idea behind it.
Mr. Bushuru, Mr. Levy, can you hear me?
Yes.
It is 10:10. It is 6:10 p.m. in Kenya.
Yes.
We have 5 minutes for your class, and may I borrow those 5 minutes because we want the students to go for break at exactly 11:15.
But I have just around 3 minutes. Let me finish with these 3 minutes. Then
Okay.
I give you those 2.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yes, welcome. Now you have seen this 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Now I want to change it to a string. I write it as a now 1 plus 2. This 2 also must be a string. Plus 3, then plus 4. Now, in the first case, you have gotten the answer to be 10. But in this case, you will not get the answer to be 10. In this case, Python will interpret this differently. How will it interpret it differently? It will give you the answer to be 1234. So let me run and you observe by yourself. When I run, you realize now it is 1234. That means those numbers were not integers, but they were strings. Last but not least, I want now to show you how to change a string to an integer. You start with the command int. When you start with this command int, I want to change string. I want to change 6 to integer. And that 6 is in a string form. When I run, it gives me 6. Wow. That output is an integer. Now, I want to change my integer now to a string. I will start with the command string, which is written as str. str, I want to change this 6 back to a string. I write inside here 6. Then I run it. You get it is 6. Now, the third example, I want to change str, then in bracket, this string 3.4. This one, it will give me a value error. I'm very sure it will give, let me run. No, it won't give me a value error. The one which will give me a value error is this one now. I want you to observe the differences. This one now, it will give me a value error. This one, yes, it will give me a value error. And what is that error? Is invalid literal for int with base 10. What does it mean? You remember now, there is a place where you add a note in our slide. There is a place where we had a note, and that note, I want you to get it clearly. Mr. Odhiamba, I'm finishing now.
Okay.
I'm finishing, yes. I want them now to get that note. It was written this, so that you can get it very clearly where the note is. Yes, the note I've gotten, the note is here. No, I've not gotten the note, but I wanted you to get it exactly from there. Now, what I want to drive across is not all strings are integers. Not all strings are integer. That is the note which you have to get to know. So you will realize now, in this case, when you want to change that string a value error. Thank you very much. That is the end of our lesson, and I've not seen any question. This means there was maximum absorption and understanding. I highly appreciate. Back to you, Mr. Odhiamba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Levy. I'd say to use my first name, Mr. Pius, for the sake of our clients. And a customer is the boss. So I want everybody to pay attention, including Mr. Levy. It will not take long. If you can see my screen, please type yes on the charts. What can you see? Please say it in the charts. Type in the charts what you can see. What can you see on the charts? Okay, thank you. Values and types. Okay, pay attention. When you come for the class, this is what you should do. First, you should have your Zoom account. If you are one of the administrators or the managers, this is only for the administrators and the manager, those in the management team. You should have your Zoom account because you have your password and credentials. That's number one on the screen. Number two on the screen, you should have your PowerPoint slides. My PowerPoint slides are here. I just need to click and it will come over. Not look for them, not upload. I don't want to see people uploading when the lessons are in progress. So for my case, this is what I'm using as my PowerPoint slide. Number three, you should have your WhatsApp. Even the participants should have their PowerPoint slide. You had made these PowerPoint slides so that you can confirm what the teacher is teaching. And then your WhatsApp. The instructor said he has got problems using the chat from Zoom. He will learn with time. So we are going to use WhatsApp. And you have used it very good and effectively. So you have that app. Number four, you should have your email opened. If you are a participant, your email open. Number five, you should have your Jupyter Notebook. For the sake of Dan, who have just joined, this is a confirmation that you have installed correctly a Jupyter Notebook. Now, to start a Jupyter Notebook, you just come here. Well, let me demonstrate this for Dan. You need to come here on your search button if you have installed it, and then you type here Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook. This is for Dan. Then you click here, and when you click here, this screen appears, and then this one appears. So you have this. Then you go to File. Then you open, or you can come here and say New. And then you send the Python, and then you have your Jupyter Notebook here. You're going to see it in a few minutes. So you should have that open, and only have one Jupyter Notebook for all the lessons. Don't have multiple Jupyter Notebooks. So number 3, you should have your notebook open. This is the notebook for taking notes or something important that the teacher is saying. Any other thing on your desktop, you have to close it because it can embarrass you. There was, I'm sorry to share this. There was one time I was teaching a class online, and the student has got so many things open, YouTube, Word on his screen. And then when he was sharing his lesson, he forgot to close. And then what we saw online was just a pornographic porno. And that was very embarrassing. We see this in this class. We dismiss you. We dismiss you there and then without coming back. That is why, without an opportunity to come back, that's why you should only have the screens that you are going to use open on your computer before you log in for class. And that is very important. Very, very important. Now, the reason why I'm delaying your break for a bit is this. Sorry. That's not what I wanted to do. I don't know whether I still have it. Let me confirm. No, I don't have it. And I've closed it. So you'll allow me to open it. And now on your notebook, this one here, I can start a new one. I'll also have my own like this. Now, I can come and paste it there. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Now, before we use it, listen, and listen carefully. When you come here, I've already introduced a textbook in PDF format. That's the official textbook for the pre-mentorship course. And all your slides must be done using that book. And that's what Mr. Bushuru is using to teach. And I think that is clear. I'm now introducing the second book. And this second book is called an online book. And this online book, this is what it's done. It has got a compiler embedded into it. So when you have learned a concept during your free time, you can even have it on your phone. You'll come here, like today we are learning about print. We want print number 17. And this is how you have been taught by Mr. Levy to write it on the code. Then to confirm if this code is correct, you just come here, save and run. And you can see here, it has run 17 and hello world. Now you move to the next one. This one also is another code. We are printing an integer and we are printing a float. You just want to confirm if your code is working. You do that and you have this. This is the second textbook I'm introducing. And then you have questions. The values 17 and 3.2 are what type of data, are what type? Float, integer, string, boolean. So we have 17 and we have 3.2. So you will come here and check one. Let's say we check float, just for example, and then you want to know whether you are correct or wrong. Then you say here, check me. And when you check me, then this is what it says. 3.2 has a decimal, but 17 does not. Is there an option that would include both values? Then that is what it's asking. Then multiple choice, like that. It will give you answers, string, what, and what have you. So let's try string. Let's try, that means that one is wrong. That one is wrong. Let's try string. Why are we trying string? We are trying string because 17 is in quotes, 3.2 is also in quotes. If they were not in quotes, then 17 will be an integer and 3.2 will be a float. But right now they're in quotes. So string, check me. And what does it say? Quotation marks imply that the values are string. They are strings. We can check this string in the active block below. So look here, this is the active block. We have put print this type to give us the type. This is the code for checking the type of a data type. So we want to check which data type is 17 and which data type is 3.2. So when I say here, save and run, down here, I don't know whether you are able to see, the screen was very small and I've now made it bigger. You should now be able to see. If you can see, please type yes on the charts. I'm just about to be done. If you can see, just type yes on the charts. Once I get the first yes, I'm going to. Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you, Dan. Good. So you can see. So it means the class for 17 under quotes is string, and the class for 3.2 under quotes is string. So don't be confused. When immediately you see a quote, even if it's a integer or it is a float, it converts that data type into a string. So this online book is to help you master the concept during your free time. Now, apart from checking on the online book, you need to start your Jupyter notebook and do it practically. So for example, if we were to use a Jupyter notebook, I'll just have to copy this, come to the Jupyter notebook, which I've already started. You have one, put this here, paste, and then run. And it gives you all the types. I can also do this. We on the Jupyter notebook, they're the same things we are doing. This, and now in this one, I'm going to remove the type because I don't want to check the type. I'll come here again and remove the type, and then like that. I don't want to check the type. I'm giving you a new function that Mr. Bushuru did not give you, how to check the type. Maybe it is coming up lesson. So when I do this, it's giving me an error. So I need to fix this error. So invalid syntax, and this invalid syntax is there on print. I'm supposed to have a quote. I'm supposed to have a quote here. Let me put it. I can put double quotes, then 17, there you go. And this one also, there you go. So let's see, when I run now, you can also run, you can run from here and also run from here. It doesn't matter. So when I do that, now there's no longer an error. Whenever you find an error with those long code, don't get scared that you are wrong. No. You are just right. And as Mr. Geoffrey pointed out in our earlier presentation, even a comma, even a single quote, even a parenthesis or a bracket, you leave it, give you an error. So let me enlarge it so that you can see. So you can take screen, you can screenshot this. You can screenshot this and put it on your notepad or on your Word for your notes, because this is also important. And you can also screenshot this when you want to check the type of the data you are doing and put it on your note. You can have an MS Word for your note. You can have two notebooks, one notepad and another one, Microsoft Word, for screenshotting and putting when the teacher is in class.
Thank you, Mr. Pius, on your great presentation about Amtract. My name is Beatrice Otieno. I graduated from Kenyatta University. I did Bachelor of Science in Public Health. On my response to your presentation about Amtract, I'll first say that I'll confidently give you the job because you clearly understood the assignment and also you have an expertise in handling the assignment. In that, you can handle a huge data set, and also the way you're approaching the assignment, where you're approaching it from an holistic approach, give me confidence that you can clearly deliver a quality job, and therefore I'll be confidently giving you the job. Thank you.
It is an awesome presentation, Mr. Pius. I'm Daniel Otieno, graduate from Kenyatta University, Bachelor of Science, Mathematics and Physics. Once again, I would like to say that your presentation on Amtrak has given me a good oversight of what a data scientist should do, all the stages from introduction to evaluation up to conclusion. Once again, very grateful, and I've heard you talking about something to do with the machine learning model. I have gotten an interest on it, and I know with time I'll be able to know more about the machine learning model. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pius, for giving me this opportunity to react to the lesson. My name is Vivian Akumu, and I have a background in economics and sociology from Kenyatta University. First of all, I would like to commend Mr. Levi for a lesson well taught. He really handled it well, and I was able to understand the concept. Yeah, the presentation was clear and he was articulate. But one thing that I would love him to improve on is the quality of his video, maybe the camera that he's using, and also to improve on lighting, because I was not able to see him well. And if this video will be used by other people who are not us, then I think the tutor who is giving the lesson need to be visible to the students. Another thing that I had a question on was on when he was inputting the values in the Jupyter notebook. I noticed that on the string value, when he used the single quotation marks, the output did not have any quotation mark, and so during the lesson I was left confused. I did not know if that output is still a string value or not, but he has explained it to Mr. Haron when Mr. Haron asked it during the video reaction. But I think maybe next time he can explain it when he's maybe teaching other students, or that he can explain it to them while he's during the lesson, so that it can be clear, as there was no time for question and answers from the student. And also the book that Mr. Pius introduced, the online book, I think it would be of great value to us, and I'm looking forward to using it, and I'm hoping that it will help me to learn the concept that we have been learning so far. Otherwise, I enjoyed the lesson and I was able to learn a lot, and even through the lab, it really helped me to be able to learn the concept that we read from chapter 2. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Juma Nicholas. I have a background of mathematics and chemistry from Kenyatta University, and I'm a participant in this data mentorship program that is funded by Pius Odhiambo. This is my reaction to the class that was held on 13th of August 2022. First, and I would like to state that Mr. Levi, who was the instructor, did a very good job by dividing the lesson into two parts, that is theory and practicals. Now, this allowed him the opportunity to first teach the theory on the topic of the day, that was values and variables, and then in the second part was the practical part was an application of what was taught in the theory. And now the other aspect that I would like to state is the summary that was done by Mr. Levi at the tail end of the lesson. That was an opportunity to revisit and wrap up the topic of the day. The third thing that I noted from the lesson is that the practical part was a little bit rushed, so there is need for proper location of time between the two parts, the theory and the practical, so that the practical part is not rushed. The final aspect is the book that was introduced by Pius. It's a very good book. I personally read it and realized that it gives the learners opportunity to carry out self-evaluation, especially after reading either topic or a subtopic where you're able to check yourself whether you've understood the concept or not. Otherwise, thank you very much. I look forward to a brighter future.
Thank you very much. I'm Ruben Chemitei, a trainer at the Eldoret National Polytechnic, and also a consultant at WIM Technologies Research. As regard to today's lesson, I want to say that the trainer or the lecturer was very interactive. The lesson has been very interactive. Illustrations of examples were done adequately in the lab, and I think the concepts and the theories that we learned as far as the coding, the code lines is concerned, was very good. And I think the trainer looked very organized in his work, and I think all the points, the objectives of the lesson were driven home, and I think we have understood this. And in addition, what the co-instructor, that is Mr. Pius, added was also very good in terms of reinforcing the concepts through the code book. I think the trainer was clear enough, or the instructor was clear enough, audible, and I think there was massive participation from the participants. So very good, keep it up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pius. I am Harun with a background in mathematics and physics. Currently, I'm a participant in the Data Science Mentorship Program. So I have one question and a reaction. So let me begin by the reaction. Yeah, to our instructor of the day, that is Mr. Levi. Yeah, the presentation was good. It displayed an understanding of what you were sharing with us. Yeah, so the mastery was on another level. And maybe just an area of improvement is it possible to have an interactive session whereby instead of just doing a whole 1 hour and the rest of us, we're just spectating, is it possible to find a way of involving us so that now we participate within the same session, like maybe asking a question, doing a demo, so on and so forth. I think that would add some value to the presentation. And maybe in a way you're also having a challenge juggling in between the chats, the WhatsApp, and sorry, and the presentation. Maybe through the technical assistance, you can find a way of making sure that that is seamless in terms of your presentation.
Yes, I am Eugene from Kenyatta University with a background on urban development and environmental planning and management. On data science mentorship today, I am a participant, and I'm impressed today about our lesson. I am quite impressed with the attendance. I can see it is almost 100% attendance, and that is quite impressive. So I also want to make a remark on our today's lessons or presentation. I like the way today we have come out focused. and the lesson was smooth. I would like to thank Mr. Lewy for presenting in that manner that was able to understand both on the theoretical part and the practical part, whereby he demonstrated very well on differences on integers, floats, and the strings. Additionally, I would like to make a request on our presentation today, or on our class today, about the recordings. I am type of one person that I usually go back to watch our recordings while I try to learn more where I didn't get or I missed. So I will request that you post the recording so that some of us can access it and make and learn more. I also want to thank the organization for how this lesson was organized today. The lesson was quite with a good interactive sessions. People were not making noise, only the teacher was teaching, and this is really recommendable. I really like the class. With those few remarks, thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Tim. I'm Beatrice Otieno. I graduated from Kenyatta University. I did public health, currently specializing in biostatistic epidemiology. I'm a participant to this class, and my reaction to this lesson today is that the instructor did a wonderful job, especially to take us through the lesson and also through the values and the variables that we learned today.